Derrida says that Heidegger distinguished Sein, lowercase being in English, as being present and presently being from Sein, which in English there's no way to translate the difference between Sein and Sein. So they translated Sein as being with a lowercase b and Sein as being with a capital B, which is rather problematic. The difference between being and to be. What do we mean by saying this is a being? What does it mean to be? Derrida says that being Sein is nothing. You can never find anything anywhere that we can call being Sein, and yet being Sein is presupposed each time we say this is a being. Can you clarify this uppercase being and lowercase being?
Let's put it this way. When we say life, it's very abstract because we don't know what is life. Life, let's say life is a noun. Or we say existence. So what is existence? There is no meaning in that. It's the same thing. We say life. What is life? You can't define life until you say, okay, I can come up all these things about life. Let's say if you're still breathing, you have life. If you stop breathing, then you're dead. You have no life. That's one way to define life. But that does not solve our philosophical view of those terms. So now let's go back to existence. You can't really define existence because existence is the proper noun. And that's what the uppercase being is. So every time when you say uppercase being, you're talking about existence. Every time when you're talking about lowercase being, you're talking about to be at this moment. Oh, you can't even say that because to be is already kind of proposed idea. You have to say, I am at this moment. So now you're more defined. I am talking about, I am sitting here at this moment. So this is a lowercase being. But this whole thing, before we started, we have to say, my existence. My existence doesn't mean anything. But in order to say, I am sitting here, I have to say my existence. But then again, my existence has no meaning until I say I am sitting here to signify that I exist. This is pretty easy to see. But what happens is that in a traditional view, once we say my life, since I am sitting here, that signifies my life, as if we solve the problem. So therefore, everything is perfect now. Ontologically, everything makes sense. And this is what the traditional philosophy is about. It comes to the time of Heidegger. He begins to say, wait, that does not make sense. Because even you say, my life is here, that doesn't mean anything. Now, even you say, I am sitting here, that still doesn't mean anything. Because I am sitting here has no meaning. So you are sitting there doing what? Does that mean anything about your life? No, it doesn't. Because that does not give us this ultimate concern of what is life. That's what people ask the question. And people are not going to ask the question, what is life? Or if you say you're sitting there, you have a life. And you're 62 years old, and you lived in America for 30 years, China 30 years, and then that's the meaning of life. No, nobody cares about that. So what I want to know is that why human being has life, and why one day human being will die. People like us, we already have a life, then we'll die. And the future human beings will be born and will be dead again. So why this? This is what the philosopher wants to know. And so that's where Heidegger begins to say, no, the traditional ontological view does not satisfy the question. So Heidegger comes to the idea, well, the meaning of being. We are thrown into being. We're jumping into this experience of life. And that's where we have to figure out. That's our emphasis. It's rather the older way, who am I? That's the essential philosophical question. And Heidegger begins to say, what am I doing? That has more meaning. So that's where Heidegger made his contribution as the huge leap in the Western philosophical history. But then when Derrida comes in, he says, well, even you're sitting here, you're not really sitting here. Because every minute, every second that is moving on, this claim you make, you are sitting here. That does not make sense because you're not sitting here. Every second is moving on. So you don't have that specific given time, say you can prove that you're sitting here. Because every time when you say you are sitting here, that here is already gone. I mean, you guys, that's your language, right? In the present tense, past tense, and the future tense. So how can you say, I am sitting here? Because you're not sitting here. soon as you finish the I am sitting here, you're already saying I was sitting here. But then you say I'm sitting here, and then you were sitting there. So what you have is I will be sitting here, but it's not come yet. So we live on this razor's edge. This so-called presence does not exist. But of course, Derrida is not the first human being to figure this out. And there are millions and billions of people figured this out a long time ago. The Taoist guy, Buddhist, Hindu, everybody, even earlier Persian mystic, they all observed the situation. It's unstable. It's impermanent. But Derrida, strictly speaking, as the trend in the Western traditional philosophy, within the philosophical discipline and with all its rules, precepts, was the first one to officially, rationally, philosophically raise the question. So that's what makes him special, and that also makes him very controversial now. People avoid him. Nobody wants to give him enough credit, and even people don't want to talk about him, because he's destroying the Western philosophy. But from a non-Western point of view, he's just another guy is telling the truth. I mean, he didn't invent anything. He didn't try to make the Western philosophy look bad. He's just telling the truth. This is what's really happening. Why you have to hide all this, cover up everything. And people are still very upset because he just told the truth. Here now, I am here. None of that is real because it's not existing. You only can make this argument within the philosophical discourse. Because if you go into the daily life, and you talk to somebody, say, what the hell are you talking about? You're sitting there, I'm sitting here, why you say we don't exist? You can't talk to people because they don't have the sophisticated mindset to be open to say, no, we're saying every time, every word you say, every word I say already become past. And that does not signify that we are here. We were never here. We're either in the past or we're going to be in future. We're not at this moment because that does not exist. It's a very solid, true philosophical question. That's what Derrida trying to argue. Frankly, I don't see many people can understand his thing, and this whole thing is too overwhelming.